What's up, folks? What's going on? And welcome to the Spun Today podcast, the only podcast that is anchored in writing, but unlimited in scope. I'm your host, Tony Ortiz, and I appreciate you listening. This is episode 265 of the Spun Today podcast, and so much has happened over the past couple weeks within the political realm. And in this episode, I'm going to dive into the assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump, which, by the way, is something I picked up on that I could be just looking into something that's not there. I feel that people that say some people have been saying former President Trump, some people have been saying President Trump. And I feel like depending on how you say it, it's like a veiled support or veiled dissent of Trump. Or I'm just looking too much into it. But I'm going to speak about that. I'm going to speak about the presidential debate, if you can call it that, which occurred a couple weeks ago, as well as Trump's recent tapping of J.D. Vance to be his vice presidential running mate. In this episode, I'm also going to speak about watching Beverly Hills Cop 4. And last but certainly not least, Sam Morril's latest comedy special, You've Changed. Stick around for all that good stuff. But first, I want to tell you guys about a quick way that you can help support this podcast if you so choose. Your support, as you know, means a ton. It helps me keep the lights on here at the proverbial Spun Today studios, and definitely motivates me to continue putting out more content. So here's one of the ways you can help support the show, and then we'll jump right into the episode. Another way you can help support the Spun Today podcast and also upgrade that stale wardrobe of yours is by going to spuntoday.com/support and clicking on the banner for Stitch Fix. Once you do, you'll enjoy a $25 discount to your first purchase. And the way Stitch Fix works is pretty cool. I use it and I've never been disappointed. You'll set up a profile, you'll put in all the sizes for your clothes, as well as all the different brands and types of clothes that you like to wear. It's really simple and intuitive to set up. They'll show you pictures and pretty much give you a thumbs up or thumbs down option on if you would wear something or not. And you get to select all the brands that you already are used to wearing. With this information, there are thousands of passionate, trend-setting stylists will curate a Stitch Fix box for you. They'll send you 5 items that you get to preview before they mail it to you, and you'll get to select based on the image if you like it or not. If not, they'll replace it with something else, and if so, they'll mail it to you absolutely for free. You can try everything on, and you have a few days to send everything back or keep the stuff that you want to keep. Then you can use that $25 credit that I mentioned towards your purchase of those items. Again, to freshen up your wardrobe and also support the Spun Today podcast, go to spuntoday.com/support and click on my affiliate link banner for Stitch Fix and enjoy your $25 credit. On Saturday, July 13th, 2024, former President Donald Trump was speaking at a presidential campaign rally of his in Pennsylvania, in Butler, Pennsylvania to be specific, where as he's speaking, about 5 minutes or so into his speech, I believe, a 20-year-old man by the name of Thomas of a nearby structure that was about 147 yards away from the podium where Trump was speaking, shoots towards Donald Trump with a semi-automatic rifle. I've read between 5 and 7 shots, depending on which article you read, and almost fucking kills the former president of the United States. Within seconds, I believe it's 15, 20 seconds, Secret Service counter snipers that are on the rooftop of another building directly behind Donald Trump shoot and kill the gunman, Thomas Crooks, while the surrounding Secret Service members who are closest to Trump on the ground all surround him and jump on top of him as they're trained to do in order to be literal shields. And you see while Trump is speaking, he kind of turns his head to the right as he's speaking, and the bullet whizzes by and like nicks his ear. And some people have said, I've heard that the bullet broke glass and the glass is what cut his ear. Other people have said that it was the actual bullet that grazed his ear. But regardless, just the turn of the head, the bullet grazes his ear instead of, if he was facing the other way, more than likely would have killed him. And then when he gets hit, almost immediately, goes to the ground as Secret Service charges him, telling him, get down. And they all surround him and get on top of him. There's a lot of commotion, obviously, and you hear this bellowing, heart-wrenching scream from someone in the crowd who is likely, either the wife or one of the daughters of retired firefighter Corey Campitori. He was a 50-year-old firefighter who realized what was going on, jumped to shield his wife and 2 daughters, and was unfortunately hit by one of the bullets in the head and died instantly, I believe. There was actually a car doctor there that was interviewed after the fact and saying that he was trying to resuscitate, tried to do what he could, but unfortunately there was nothing that could be done. And on top of that, there were several other folks in the crowd that were also injured. Then shortly thereafter, once they confirmed that the shooter was down, he was neutralized, he was killed, Secret Service, still surrounding Trump. Trump gets up, tells him to wait, let me get my shoes, and then faces the crowd and, true to form, and I'll give him credit for it, puts a fist in the air, doesn't miss the photo op opportunity. Don't let a tragedy go to waste, as they say. Puts his fist in the air in a now iconic image and, tells the crowd to fight. Just says fight. Now, when this happened, like most folks, went through several different phases. My first knee-jerk reaction, which I'll admit, was, is this shit real? Is this shit staged? Like, what's going on here? But I was just there for a couple seconds, because then it was like, this would be like too risky of a thing to stage. Like too many folks would have to be involved in it. Too much can go wrong. And then soon after, there were like images of the guy's dead body on the roof, reports of people hurt in the crowd. And I was like, oh no, this shit wasn't fake. It wasn't staged. Then the next phase I went into was the fucking Alphabet Boys are at it again. They're running that old JFK playbook on him, which, if you know Donald Trump's history with the FBI, CIA, and those agencies, and his history of butting heads with them and them undermining his presidency in certain ways, him undermining them in other ways, and just, that contentious relationship that they had, that conspiracy theory, if you will, kind of tracks. But then ultimately I landed on, this was likely just a fucking retarded, impressionable kid that needed a friend, needed to get laid, was easily, as younger folks are, and as some adults are, myself included, susceptible and able to be manipulated, especially if you don't recognize your own propensity for certain things. That was a loner, a bit of a loser, and according to a kid that went to high school with him, was just bullied all the time. Take that with a grain of salt. But you put all that together, sprinkled with, again, being susceptible to certain influences, whether it be social media or political influences, prefrontal cortex, not fully formed yet, and you just have a recipe for fucking disaster. Mental illness, I'm sure, played a factor, although there's no evidence of that with him, aside from the fact that he did something fucking crazy. But also, both his parents are social workers. So would there be a evidence of that if the kid had mental issues and they were just professionals that were taking care of it themselves, off the books, if you will? The gun that he got was his father's, which I'm definitely not a roll back the Second Amendment, take away everybody's guns type of dude. I believe that responsible folks should be able to have whatever the fuck it is that they want to have, including guns, if that's their thing. And you mitigate obviously for population density in different towns, different cultures, if you will, across the different states. But we have to do better there. I'm definitely also not on the side of any ounce of regulation around gun control is the government's coming to take all your guns. Like, relax. That's not what it is either. There's a middle ground there that we only seem to speak about once there's a tragedy, once there's a mass shooting, once there's an assassination attempt and shit like that. But there definitely should be something more stringent, and the onus should be on the responsible gun owner to abide by certain regulations. It should be more stringent than owning a car is. For example, when you own a car, you have a few things that you need, right? You have the title for the vehicle registered with your state. You also have to have insurance with it. You have to, with an independent insurance company, and you also have to have a driver's license. So there's like 3 different points of, vectors of proof of ownership and things that you have to maintain in order to be able to drive a vehicle. It should be at least that difficult to own a firearm and apply certain common sense things like to prove that you have a fucking gun safe in the house, or periodic gun safety check-ins. You have to go in every like 10 years or whatever it is to like renew your license. You have to show that you have the ability to fucking see. If not, you shouldn't be behind the wheel of a car. It should be like something like that, but a gun ownership version of. Is that a panacea? Will that stop every instance of gun violence and stuff like that? Of course not. But the conversation has to start going in that direction, because it can't just be, or continue to be rather, what it is, which is, we can't have, one side says we can't add any new laws because that means that everybody's freedom is being infringed against and everybody's weapons are going to be taken away. And then the other side is saying there's already rules and laws on the books. They just have to be enforced. It's like, fuck what both sides are saying. It's wrong, so revamp the shit. Make it work. Do your jobs. And what's crazy is that a bunch of folks saw him like crawling on the roof. People had cell phone footage. There was a clear disconnect between the local law enforcement that was there, which works in conjunction with the Secret Service. I saw the DA of Pennsylvania or the governor or someone from Secret Service. Well, I forget who it was, to be honest, but they were breaking down how in situations like this, like a rally, for example, when Secret Service is involved, they also have the help of local law enforcement. And there's like tiers of, who's in charge and stuff like that. Ultimately, the Secret Service is in charge, but they farm out like, the outer perimeter of the thing to local law enforcement. So there was like not a gray area, but there was like a little finger pointing between, should the local law enforcement have jumped in and done something? Should the Secret Service have, vetted and secured that area better? Which supposedly they did. They, secured it and vetted it. But to me, and if you see the aerial footage of the place, it's like an open farm looking field. And there's like that one structure 140 miles away, 147 yards away, whatever it is, and a couple structures behind it. And then stage and the structures that were behind the stage. So it's like, to me, it's like you should have Secret Service, like Secret Service itself should have just had fucking 3 or 4 more people like on those other roofs, and problem solved, problem avoided, But yeah, it was crazy. Some folks were like seeing the guy, supposedly telling the local law enforcement, hey, there's somebody on the roof. The counter snipers couldn't tell because how roofs have like a triangle arch. The guy was on the opposite side, crawling upwards. So from the vantage point of the Secret Service counter snipers that were behind the stage, they couldn't see until, he got up there and started taking the 5 shots. And then again, within like 20, 30 seconds, he was dead. But still, seemed so avoidable, which then feeds the whole, conspiracy of, did they let it happen? The Secret Service is technically under the president's command, if you will, although they are sworn to protect all former presidents for the rest of their lives as well. But it's like, who's really calling the shots with them? Then you throw in the fact that the kid was in a BlackRock commercial that they filmed at his high school like a year or 2 ago. That definitely adds fodder to the whole conspiracy theory. But still, what a crazy, tragic occurrence. Trump fan or not, which I'm not, you don't want to see something like that happen. And something that hasn't happened since Ronald Reagan in 1981, when there was an assassination attempt on him. Maybe that MAGA slogan has some like bad juju behind it or some shit. Then you had about a week or 2, I want to say, prior to this happening, was the first presidential debate of the 2024 election cycle, where President Joe Biden, sleepy, stumbling Joe Biden, and former President Trump got to go head-to-head in a debate with a shitload of new rules, seemingly to favor President Biden. There was no crowd, which Trump is good at, playing to. Their mics were automatically shut off after the allotted amount of time that they had. I think they had 2 minutes for questions, 1 minute for rebuttals, and then their mics would instantly be shut off. which again favors Biden, in my opinion, from Trump speaking over him, as he did often in the first debate years ago, or debates, and also helps Biden with the stumbling and mumbling that he does when he veers off course and starts sounding incoherent. And the debate was just a fucking disaster. So much so that Biden, from the very beginning, he had maybe like one or two okay moments, but from the very beginning, just like stumbled, froze, and just seemed very frail and not up to the task anymore. And then you have Trump on the flip side, who's just can't help himself. He can't help but be himself with his narcissistic, off-putting, I'm the best, I did everything great, sleazy, salesman-y, full of shit self. Corpse in Joe Biden and a pathological liar in fucking Trump. And even with that, and it also devolved into like a fucking elementary school level debate with like one person challenging the other to a game of golf and the other one saying, I'll beat you. No, I'll beat you. Oh, I bet you can't carry your bag. Like, what the fuck? You guys are running for president of the United States. These are really our choices. It's a fucking bizarre world. But it was so bad for Biden that out of it came the beginning of the fracturing of the Democratic Party in folks openly, elected officials openly stating that Biden should step down for the better of the party. That was absolutely the consensus with the public, except for the blue no matter who folks, which are, in my opinion, just as myopically ignorant as the January 6th MAGA forever folks. But the consensus and the talk up until the Trump assassination attempt is Joe Biden going to step down or not? So much so that he had to address it in like speeches and talks that he's given, saying that he wasn't going to step down. And just today, as of the recording of this episode, Chuck Schumer, which is the lead senator in the Democratic Party, and by the way, Amy Schumer, the comedian's cousin, which I didn't know before. I found out a couple months ago or whatever, but I never made that connection. But anyway, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, the lead Democrat in the House, allegedly, according to a Washington Post article, have both told Biden that he should step down because it would be him running is of no benefit to the party, and it actually hurts the party with him at the head of the ticket, which is nuts. It's crazy. It's like unprecedented. And also, Biden just stated that he has COVID and has to, lay low for a few days or something like that, which in my opinion is going to be the way to like ease himself out and show face. But how crazy would that be? It seems to me that over the next few days, Biden will step down. We'll see if it happens. But this is how I see things playing out. Biden steps down, Kamala becomes president, which nobody seems to be overly enthusiastic about. The approval ratings are, I believe, in like the low to mid 20s. Then Kamala picks a VP, probably like a Gavin Newsom or something like that, to run against Trump. And then unless something amazing happens between now and November, I think with the hype of everything after the assassination attempt and just his base being so emboldened, how close the race is, as is between Trump and Biden, and how not liked Kamala is, I think Trump will take the election. And I think he did an interesting move in choosing his VP pick, J.D. Vance, which is a 39-year-old single-term senator from Ohio who wrote a book called Hillbillyology that apparently did really well. And he was in like venture capitalists and finance. And I think it was a good choice for him, even though I know absolutely nothing about this dude. Never heard of him before Trump picked him. So from a policy perspective, again, I know zero. But just his age being so much younger balances the ticket well, like from an age perspective, from, if you're setting someone up for the future to take over after your term, because remember, Trump only gets 4 years, not 8 years this time around, because he already had 4 years. He's young, but maybe too young, but he's young, so I'll give him that. I also like that he was a big critic of Trump the first time around when Trump was running, I think that's a good thing because, it shows his ability to think for himself, not just like fall in line one way or the other, and ability to evolve, even if it's in a way that I wouldn't necessarily agree with him evolving in. And now being pro-Trump, you can call that flip-flopping, you can call it evolving, depends on how you want to look at it. But essentially, to me, I take that as he's not just going to be a pushover for Trump, but that's obviously just speculation and is yet to be seen. I also like that Vivek and him were friends or went to college together or something like that. Because I actually liked a lot of what Vivek was saying and how he was in the Republican primaries taking the other Republicans to task and pointing out where they were full of shit and their pitfalls and stuff like that. I think that's a good thing, but yeah, we'll see. We will see. What a fucking crazy political environment this election cycle is turning out to be. Both sides are at least speaking to, having to lower the temperature and the divisiveness, which I think is a net positive, but we'll see how long that lasts. But it's very interesting political times nonetheless. The Spun Today podcast is brought to you in part by
Wee woo, pull over.
This is Officer Austin.
And I'm Deputy Donovan.
From the Last Two Brain Cells podcast. All right, listen, we're not cops.
But we are two best buds who can't wait to expose you to a whole lot of things that you've never heard of.
Things you really don't need to hear.
Things that you didn't know that you didn't want to know.
Each episode will cover a few hand-picked experimental segments.
They might be scary stories,
tragic, terrible historical events,
or avant-garde soundscapes.
But mostly it's just guys being silly and stupid. At the end of the day, we're here to put some pep in your step with some out-of-the-box thinking to keep you learning, laughing, and giggling along with us while you're on your daily commute.
Or in the shower.
Or as you make sweet, passionate love to your life partner.
Or as you make sweaty, dirt nasty love to your life partner.
Wow. Or at the office and with headphones.
You can listen on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Nice. Now, hope to see you soon, and let's get back to your main podcast. Take it away, my friends.
Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. is available and streaming now on Netflix. It is the fourth installment in the Beverly Hills Cop franchise. I was definitely looking forward to it, and it did not disappoint. Here is the official synopsis according to Tudum, which is apparently a publication by Netflix that I guess writes about Netflix movies and shows and stuff like that, which is pretty smart. And I literally just found for the first time as I'm recording this, and it's spelled Tudum. Tudum. After that sound that Netflix makes when you turn it on or press play on something, which is pretty dope. But here is the official synopsis. Detective Axel Foley is back on the beat in Beverly Hills after his daughter, Jane's, life is threatened. She and Foley team up with a new partner, as well as old pals Billy Rosewood and Taggart, to turn up the heat and uncover a conspiracy. And as we like to do here on the Spun Today podcast, let's shout out the writers, because if I don't do it, who will? Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. was written by Will Beal, Tom Gormican, Kevin Eaton, and based on the characters by Danilo Bach and Daniel Petrie Jr. Shout out to each and every one of the writers that put this screenplay and movie together. So if you're listening to this and you don't know what Beverly Hills Cop is, you're showing your age, or maybe I'm showing my age. But it was one of the dopest, definitely R-rated comedies from the 80s, 1984. Shout out to 84, the year I was born. That's when the first movie came out, starring Eddie Murphy, who is a Detroit detective. His character's name is Axel Foley, and he became a cop after having a troubled childhood, did some illegal things, as they allude to throughout the movie. And when his boys that he used to be in the streets with came to visit him after many years and winds up getting killed in front of Eddie Murphy's apartment, he had mentioned to him that he went to Beverly Hills, he had a job over there, and he just came to Detroit to visit. And Axel, being a detective and his old friend just getting killed, wound up going to Beverly Hills and finding the folks that killed him and bringing them to justice, so on and so forth. And he's a cop from Detroit. Beverly Hills is a completely different scene. They're like buttoned up, by the book type cops. Eddie Murphy's style was, or Axel Foley's style rather, was much different. He wasn't afraid to like bend the law and, you know, break a few rules as long as the ultimate good is being done, which is catching the bad guys. And it was just a great franchise. All 3 movies I really enjoyed. The first one, of course, better than all the other ones, but still all of them great to watch. So when I heard this one was coming out, I was excited in a similar way as I was excited for Matrix 4, which also did not disappoint. It definitely checks off the nostalgia box. There was so many like callbacks to the earlier movies, like when he first goes back to Beverly Hills, or when he first goes to Beverly Hills and he's like looking around and seeing the folks like walking around in spandex like in the first movie, and like Michael Jackson jackets, and he's just like laughing and cracking up to like what a culture shock it is in a way. There was a scene like that when he's driving around Beverly Hills in this one. He sees like guys putting on makeup while they're driving. This is also a callback to the second one, I believe, with Billy Rosewood's character, played by Judge Reinhold, having a scene where he cocks a shotgun and says, "You can't have too much firepower." That was definitely a callback to the second movie, when he was like a gun and knife nut. Sergeant Taggart, or now Chief Taggart, in the fourth movie, being, you know, butting heads with his wife and always complaining about being married and shit like that. Billy has the scene of how he had in the first one, where he's surrounded by bad guys and they're like all shooting at him, and him, you know, being the by the book Beverly Hills police officer, just stands up and says, "Stop, and all of you put down your weapons," and they'll just like keep shooting his ass. He has like a scene similar to that in part 4. So it was good like that, with that reminiscing and take you back to the old movie. They ratchet up the tension in the film by Eddie Murphy having a daughter, Jane Saunders, played by Taylor Page, that we learn he's estranged from. He spent years without talking much, if at all. He apparently did it for her own good, how he moved the mom, or divorced the mom, but like moved them out to Beverly Hills because some folks in Detroit threatened to kill his family. But they definitely had that was like one of the arcs of the story, you know, them mending their relationship. Josh Gordon-Levitt is in it, who's dope. Shout out to hitrecord.org. I think he's a great actor. I really enjoy a lot of what he's in. He plays the love interest of Jane Saunders, as well as a detective in Beverly Hills who, again, isn't afraid to break the rules and kind of teams up with Axel Foley to try to uncover the conspiracy of what's going on. Chief John Taggart, played by John Ashton. He, out of everyone in the film, he looks so fucking old. It was like kind of sad to see how old like he looks and Billy looks, and then makes me think of how old I am. Kevin Bacon is in it. He plays Captain Cade Grant, which, spoiler alert, turns out to be like the main bad guy / corrupt cop. And quick aside, Kevin Bacon said what's up to me once. I saw him here in New York. I was doing this volunteer thing through a previous employer on 9/11. You know how they have that like day of service? It was at the Intrepid Museum here in New York, which, for folks who don't know, it's a retired military ship carrier that is full of planes from different eras, planes, fighter jets, and it's a museum, which is pretty dope that you could walk around and, you know, see the different rooms and planes, and really interesting. But I did like a volunteer thing there, and as I'm leaving, Kevin Bacon is getting out of a yellow cab and walking in, and I see folks like looking at him like, "Oh shit, look," you know, kind of like commotion, but there wasn't like too many people outside. And I actually remembered his name, which in real time I was like surprised at myself. And I was like, "Hey, Kevin." And he looked at me and kind of gave me the nod like, "Hey, what's up?" And kept walking. I was like, "Oh shit." But yeah, Kevin Bacon's the bad guy in this movie, but he was the good guy that day. My guy Serge was in it, played by Bronson Pinchot. I have no idea how to pronounce his name, but I know him cariñosamente as Balky Baktakumis from Perfect Strangers. Which, by the way, I didn't know that Family Matters, the sitcom, was a spin-off of Perfect Strangers. And I think it went on to becoming, you know, huge. I mean, it did go on to become huge, you know, Steve Urkel and all that. But I think it went on to become so much bigger than Perfect Strangers itself. Definitely different eras, kind of. But I remember watching both Perfect Strangers when I was a little kid, and then Family Matters, you know, when I'm a bit older, but still. And the movie was funny. Eddie Murphy was great in it. He had this funny ass scene with a valet guy who's a black guy at a ritzy country club, and Eddie Murphy goes up to him and he's like arguing with him to like get a car because they're like chasing down a bad guy. And he's like, just give me a key. I'm a cop. And come on, you're my brother. This and that. And they're going just back and forth. Oh, really? You're my brother? You gonna pay my bills? Or if I lose this job, I got a mortgage. I got this. I got that. Then we ain't gonna be brothers, right? And the guy, this lady walks by and says, oh, hi, que yo cuánto, blah, blah, blah. And then he puts on like a British accent. And he's like, hello, Miss So-and-so. Have a great day. Pip, pip, cheerio. Like, and Eddie Murphy goes, oh, you a code switching nigga, huh? You one of them code switching motherfuckers. That was just hilarious. My guy Luis Guzman is in it. He plays Chalino Valdemoro, which is like the head cartel guy. And he plays him gay, which I thought was an interesting choice. The CEO of Rasta Monster himself. And it was just a fun watch. A fun, nostalgic, worthwhile watch. The only thing where I think they fucked up that I missed was that I was waiting for was the iconic Axel Foley laugh, which if you've seen the previous movies, you know what I'm talking about. Which Eddie Murphy does it on stage too, I think in Raw or Delirious or both. And they definitely had spots for it. And I was waiting for it in those spots because he laughs, but just laughs in a different way. I don't know if it's that you can't do it anymore or what, but I felt like it was a lost opportunity. They could have like pumped in that laugh, if anything, like in post-production, but it is what it is. But the movie was dope. It was a good watch. It was true to the Beverly Hills franchise, you know, the same type of formula. Fish out of water cop from Detroit goes to Beverly Hills, uncovers a conspiracy that nobody else knew about or sees with his top-notch detective skills, mixed with a bunch of humor and some good action. It's a good time. Beverly Hills Cop 4, aka Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, streaming now on Netflix. Check it out. Sam Morril's latest comedy special, You've Changed, is streaming now on Amazon Prime. Sam Morril, for those of you who don't know, is a hilarious stand-up comic. He is the co-host of the We Might Be Drunk podcast, which is one of my favorite podcasts, rather. Co-host along with another favorite comic of mine, Mark Normand, and co-owners with Normand on Bodega Cat Whiskey, which is their own spirit. Comedians with spirits. Who would have thunk it? Yeah, I've been a fan of Sam's for a while now. I've watched his other specials. He's super funny. He's clever. He's dark. And I can best illustrate that darkness of his by this bit here related to guns, which is apropos to what we were talking about earlier. But he says that guns are like babies. Both are annoying on a plane. If you're dating someone new and they have either, it might be a problem. And eventually both will be in a school. He has this great, clever bit about Trump and Biden. And in part of it, he says that Trump versus Biden is like a drunk driver versus a driver that's falling asleep at the wheel. That was such a perfect description. A drunk driver, I would say that's Trump, versus a driver falling asleep at the wheel. I would say that's Sleepy Joe. And he has this chunk about smoking and cigarettes versus vaping. And he said that there's something more trustworthy about cigarette smokers versus vapors. He was like, if you see a detective in a movie and he's smoking a cigarette, you know that girl's gonna be found. But if you see a detective vaping, that girl's gone. And he tells a story about, he's a comic from New York, so he takes the subway and stuff. And he tells this story that I definitely related to about, just taking the train and, crazy homeless people on the train. And he was like, there's nothing worse than when you lock eyes with the crazy person on the train and they come over towards you. That there's nothing worse. Which is fucking true. And he says that the other people on the train, they're watching, not like they're gonna help you if something goes down, but they're more so watching you like, thank God he chose you. And it's definitely true. There's definitely the feeling you get. And it's definitely, when I'm on the other side of it, the feeling that I get. I'm like, oh good, he's fucking with somebody else, not with me. New Yorkers are so desensitized to shit, yo. I was on the train today on my way home from work, and this lady, I'm like holding like one of the bars in the middle. The train's semi-packed, pretty packed. And she's like crossing in front of me to the point that she's like broke my hand off of like the grip I had off of the pole. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then I noticed like other people moving away in the same direction that she is, like moving away from something. And then I like focus my attention to where the commotion is coming from. And it's like somebody fighting and screaming, where's my phone? Where the fuck is my phone? And you see people just getting off the train. And I followed suit, and everybody just like walked off the train in like lockstep into the next cart, and then the train door just closes and everybody goes back to being in their own little worlds. But it bees like that sometimes on the A train. But yeah, folks, if you want to hear and watch a seasoned, dope stand-up comedian that will make you laugh, check out Sam Morril's latest comedy special, You've Changed, streaming now on Amazon Prime. And by the way, before I let you folks go, I completed the Hudson Valley bike tour this past weekend as well. Same day actually as the Trump assassination attempt. Shout out to my boy Pablo. We did the Hudson Valley, we did the 15-miler this time around, since we did the 40-mile 5-borough bike tour earlier in the year, and we plan to do the 15-miler again at the Twin Lights ride, which is later on in like September or so. September or August. But it was a dope ride, hot as fuck, but definitely didn't have to get off to like walk any of it, especially with the Hudson Valley. Last time, remember, that's the one that I couldn't finish, like the last like 2 or 3 miles. My fucking quads like seized up, but this time no issues. It's a bitch, the Hudson Valley, because it's higher elevation, it's hilly, so you have a lot more like inclines, and it's from like the very beginning. Like you have to like go uphill for a while, like literally right when you start off, you're like uphill already. So it's a bit of a bitch, but that aside, it was a good time, like usual. Shout out to Bike New York for putting on great events like that. I did around the 7-mile mark, actually. I pull over for my first break. I'm like, all right, let me take a breather here. Let me stretch a little bit, then keep going. And I do that, and then when I'm about to get back on my bike, I have a flat tire. Thankfully, I bought this like little compression pump. I fill it up, and just to see like how far I can get before it goes flat again. I'm at the 7-mile mark, 7.5. And then I go and I get to the rest stop, which was very close by, like half a mile away. And at each rest stop, they have like bike repair. And I actually ran over glass and fucked up the tube, but they, at no cost, just fix it for you there. They swapped out the tube, took out the glass, pumped me up, and I was good to go and finished the rest of the race. But yeah, folks, that's all I have for you. That was episode 265 of the Spun Today podcast. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen. I appreciate each and every one of you that do so. If you'd like to support this podcast by purchasing a t-shirt or a hoodie, checking out my writing and buying one of my books, or rating and reviewing this podcast wherever it is that you're listening to it, please do so. I'd really appreciate it. I'm going to leave you with a few different ways you can help support the pod and ways that you can get some great discounts for some dope things. So stick around for another minute or two to listen to all that good stuff. And until next time, peace. What's up, folks? Tony here. I hope you're enjoying the Spun Today podcast as much as I enjoy producing it for you. Here are a few ways you can help support the show. You can support the Spun Today podcast financially by going to spuntoday.com/support. There you will find a couple different ways that you can do just that, some of which will actually not even cost you a dime, such as using my Amazon affiliate link. When you go to spuntoday.com/support, you'll see my affiliate link to Amazon. Click on it and it will take you to Amazon's website, where you can do your shopping like normal. This will not cost you anything extra, but Amazon will pay me for driving traffic to their website. If you'd like to support the podcast more directly, you can do so by becoming a patron at spuntoday.com/support. You'll also find my Patreon link. This is where creators such as myself can be paid directly by patrons like you. You can either make a one-time donation or schedule recurring donations if you so choose. There are also different tiers of support, and depending on which you decide to go with, you'll also receive some perks in return, such as early access to content, free digital copies of my books, free bookmarks, etc. That is, again, by supporting via my Patreon link, available at spuntoday.com/support. Similar to Patreon, at that same location, you'll also find my Ko-fi link as well as my Buy Me a Coffee link. They work very similar to Patreon and are different ways that you can help support the show financially. And last but certainly not least, you have the good old-fashioned PayPal donation button. Any which way that you choose to support is greatly appreciated. It all helps me do more of what I love, which is writing and podcasting. Again, go to spuntoday.com/support. You can also support the Spun Today podcast by rating and reviewing the show wherever it is that you're listening to this episode. I'd really appreciate it because it really does help. Also, follow me on all socials. At Spun Today on X, formerly known as Twitter. At Spun Today on Instagram. And at Spun Today on YouTube, where you'll not only find full-length episodes of the podcast, but also chopped up clips and additional content. And of course, you can follow the Facebook page at facebook.com/Spun Today. Another way you can help support the Spun Today podcast and also upgrade that stale wardrobe of yours is by going to spuntoday.com/support and clicking on the banner for Stitch Fix. Once you do, you'll enjoy a $25 discount to your first purchase. And the way Stitch Fix works is pretty cool. I use it and I've never been disappointed. You'll set up a profile. You'll put in all the sizes for your clothes, as well as all the different brands and types of clothes that you like to wear. It's really simple and intuitive to set up. They'll show you pictures and pretty much give you a thumbs up or thumbs down option on if you would wear something or not. And you get to select all the brands that you already are used to wearing. With this information, there are thousands of passionate, trend-setting stylists will curate a Stitch Fix box for you. They'll send you 5 items that you get to preview before they mail it to you, and you'll get to select based on the image if you like it or not. If not, they'll replace it with something else, and if so, they'll mail it to you absolutely for free. You can try everything on, and you have a few days to send everything back or keep the stuff that you want to keep. Then you can use that $25 credit that I mentioned towards your purchase of those items. Again, to freshen up your wardrobe and also support the Spun Today podcast, go to spuntoday.com/support and click on my affiliate link banner for Stitch Fix and enjoy your $25 credit. Do you want to start your own podcast? Have a great show idea that you want to get out into the masses but don't know quite how to get it from your head out into the world? Well, here's how. Use the podcast host Libsyn. That's who I use to bring the Spun Today podcast to you. And now you can use them the same way. Using the promo code SPUN, S-P-U-N, you can open up your Libsyn account today and get 2 months of free podcast hosting. Here's how it works. Once you record your show, you upload it to your Libsyn account, where you can fill in your episode notes, upload your podcast art, and schedule when you want your episodes to release. Once you do that, Libsyn will take care of the rest. They'll distribute your show to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and all the other podcatchers that you choose, instantaneously and seamlessly. Again, go to libsyn.com and use the promo code SPUN, S-P-U-N, to get 2 months free. Or use the affiliate link that's in the episode notes. Again, that's libsyn.com, promo code SPUN. Take that great podcast idea from out of your head and put it out into the world. And as always, folks, substitute the mysticism with hard work and start taking steps in the general direction of your dreams. Thanks for listening. I love you, Aiden.
I love you, Daddy.
I love you, Grayson.
I love you, Daddy.